Welcome to Kendra's Artistic Crochet Designs. And I want to go over this pumpkin poncho a little bit. But I want you guys to meet Helena. And you've seen Helena a few times this week already in the videos. So she is our new little baby kitten. And you guys are probably wondering where Pumpkin is. So on the last day of September, we had to put Pumpkin down because she had cancer. And we miss Pumpkin, but we've got this new little kitten, and she's a little Siamese, and her name is Helena. And we just love her too, but we still miss Pumpkin because Pumpkin was a special cat. And we'll never find another cat like Pumpkin. But having Helena has helped us out. Helena. Helena. Let's see if you can see her. There she is. There we go. Now she's a play baby. She loves to play and bite. But she's only 3 months old. She just turned 3 months old on the 20th of October. Or the 21st. So she's kept us busy. We went and rescued her from a shelter. It was really hard to find Siamese cats in the shelter. When they told me they had a Siamese cat, I jumped at it because Siamese cats are hard to find in the shelter. Siamese cats cost a lot of money to buy a Siamese kitten. So anyway, that's the story on Miss Pumpkin. So on the pumpkin poncho, this is the jack-o'-lantern poncho, I guess, but we're making it into a pumpkin first. We were increasing every other one, and that's what we were doing on Monday. And let's see, we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So 24 rows, we've done that. And we have 40, I think it's 44 stitches on each side. I think it was 44. So 44 here, and anyway, so now we're going to start, because of course it's not big enough. I'm trying to make it more realistic to a pumpkin as I can. So now we are not going to increase at all because I don't want to increase it so much that it'll get too big. And of course, there goes Helena. I knew when I started crocheting she was going to start. So we're just going to go around, and I think it is going to take about another 25 rows. So we did 24 rows up to this point, and I'm just going to keep going for another 25 rows. And then we'll be back because we're going to do a little bit of decreasing so that the pumpkin kind of looks like, how pumpkins do. They come little, and then they come out, and then they stay out for a while, and then they go back in. So that's what I'm hoping that it'll look like. I'm trying to. No, Helena. She is after the yarn over there. So you know how cats are. They love their yarn. Pumpkin loved the yarn too. She used to love to help me roll up balls of yarn. So So I don't know if you guys know the story of Pumpkin, but the story is that I think I told you guys when I first got Pumpkin, but we'll go over it again. Anyway, so I work at the Bristol Senior Living, and one of our residents had to go to a memory care, and in the memory care, you're not allowed to have pets, and she's the one that had Pumpkin, and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with Pumpkin. And of course, I knew Pumpkin because, I worked there and I used to go and visit this resident all the time. And I go up and play with Pumpkin while I visit her. So Pumpkin knew me. And when they came and said, we just don't know what we're going to do with Pumpkin because her son had two dogs, and they knew that Pumpkin wouldn't get along very well with the dogs. Anyway, and I says, well, that's okay. I'll take Pumpkin. And at the time, we had our dog, Bella, and she was very, very sick. And we knew that Bella wasn't going to last too much longer. So we I wanted to get a cat. Um, anyway, so Pumpkin and Bella, it was funny when I first brought Pumpkin home. Bella didn't even bark at her, and Pumpkin went right up to her, and they sniffed their noses. They sniffed the noses together. They put their noses together like they're sniffing each other, and that was it. They were good friends. So um, Pumpkin got to spend 6 months with Bella before Bella died. Um, so we've lost within the last couple of years. We've lost two pets, and it's kind of rough to lose. It's like losing a family member, but you know. I knew that Pumpkin was special because Bella accepted her right away, and she accepted Bella, you know, too. So anyway, I remember where they used to. Bella couldn't walk. She laid around all the time because she couldn't walk. And so my husband would bring Bella up on the bed while we got ready for work in the mornings. And Pumpkin would come up and lay on the bed with Bella. So anyway, that was funny. But um, so like I said, this last September, for a couple of weeks, Pumpkin wasn't acting right, and uh, for the last week of her life, she actually stopped eating. And so we took her to the um, Ohio State Animal Hospital to find out what was wrong with her. And they ran tests on her, and um, she had this water on her stomach, and we wondered because she was vomiting up water once in a while. We wondered about that. So she had all this water on her stomach and on her chest, and then they tested that, and they said that was cancer. So we found out before we took her over there to the hospital. I had gotten a call from that family that used to own Pumpkin, and the woman that owned Pumpkin had died like 2 weeks prior. And I just felt like I didn't even know she had cancer at this point. I felt like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose Pumpkin. And then you guys might think I'm weird on that, but I went upstairs and I told my husband, we're going to lose Pumpkin tonight. And he said, well, let's just go over to the hospital and see what they say. We don't know, you know. And here and behold, we did lose her. So my husband didn't want to be there when we put Pumpkin down. I was not going to let Pumpkin die by herself. So Pumpkin was my cat, and I held her while they they did this, and I got to spend a little bit of time before they put her down with her as well. And I just told her, I says, Pumpkin, I said, Pat, I said, she's calling you. So I gave her back to her, you know. Um, and it just it makes my heart feel good that I know that she has Pumpkin up in heaven. So she went back to her original owner. And Pumpkin, you guys would hear her purr because she purred so loud. And every time she'd be on the video, she'd be, she'd lay here with me, and she would just purr because she used to love to lay with me while I crocheted, you know, and she'd purr away. She purred all the time, and it was just so fitting that while I was holding her, of course, she always purred every time I held her. She purred all the way to the end. And I just lost it. I was like, oh my gosh. I knew when she stopped purring she was gone, you know. So I that was really hard for me. But like I told my husband the next day, I said, let's go over to the shelter and see if we can find another cat that looked like Pumpkin. And but he said she has to be a female. He won't do males. Male cats. Every time we have a pet, my husband has to have a female, no matter what it is, whether it's a cat or a dog. It has to be a female. Anyway, so I said okay. So we went over to the shelter because we saw online that they had a cat that looked like Pumpkin, and I thought it said that it was a female, but it wasn't a female. It was a male. And so and they said, "Oh no, no, that cat's a male." And I said, "Oh," and anyway, and I said they saw that I was sad, and they said, "But we got two Siamese cats that came in," and I said, "I used to own a Siamese." Okay, here's the history behind the Siamese. Her name was Agonistas. And before we got married, my husband had gotten me her as a wedding present. And I, like, I loved that cat. Okay. And so that's how I have never ever had a Siamese until Agonistas. And we called her Aggie for short. Anyway, and so so anyway, when my son, we had her for quite a few years. But when my son was 2 years old, he became allergic to cats. He had asthma problems, and they would get really bad. And we did an allergy test. We had to go take him to do an allergy test to find out why he was having asthma problems. And they found out that he's highly allergic to cats. And of course, I had to get rid of Aggie. you know. And I think that cat lasted only a year after we got rid of her. Um, but so Aggie is always in the back of my mind too, because I know I just love that cat. Of course, with me and I love animals. I could probably love any cat, you know. But so Aggie was a stray. Okay, we found her at my husband's mom's house as and she was a stray, and we could not find her owner. And when we took her to the vet said, well, she was a purebred Siamese. And she said, and we put it in the paper and everything. We could not find the owner. And he goes, and it was like a few weeks after that. And he said, if you haven't found the owner by now, you're not going to. She's yours. So my husband, said, well, let's get her fixed. And because she was just a kitten, like, I think she was about 3 or 4 months old when we had her, just like Helena. She was just a little kitten, just like Helena. Only she was a darker haired Siamese. She had the really dark brown markings, and Helena is a very light. Um, and also, Helena is a blue tipped Siamese as well. That we found out from the vets when we took her on the 21st. The vet said, oh no, because we thought that Helena was a mix. And they said, no, no, she's not a mix. They told me that she is a purebred and she's a blue tipped Siamese. So, which there have gray markings, they call, because her ears are blue, are gray, and she has like the gray little on her paws and on her little nose and stuff. She has the gray. I've just never seen a Siamese cat with gray on her before, and with gray on them before. And they said, yeah, they call them blue tipped, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never heard of that. Anyway, so her name was Helena over at the shelter, and I took one look at her and said, she that is her name. And then my daughter, when we was telling her about it, she goes, Mom, Helena, what, Saint Helena. And I didn't think of that until she said that, and I said, oh, yeah, because my husband's like, oh no, we should change her name. And I said, no, Helena fits her. I didn't want to change her name. And there was just something in the back of my mind. And here it was my daughter that reminded me about St. Helena. And as soon as he heard Lisa say that, he agreed too. So, as far as we're concerned, she's named after St. Helena. Um, so, yeah, she's been keeping our days busy. And she kind of got in trouble last night because she sleeps all day and she's up all night. And so I guess last night she um, had unrolled a whole roll of toilet paper in the bathroom while we were sleeping. And then there was a tissue box sitting on our stand, and that she's decided to pull all the tissues out of the box, and they were everywhere. I was like, oh my gosh. We forgot what it was like to have a kitten because Pumpkin wasn't a kitten when we got her. Pumpkin was 7 years old when we got her. So, we only had Pumpkin for about maybe a year and 2 or 3 months. So, yeah, we didn't have pumpkin very long, but every once in a while, my husband will call Helena Pumpkin. And he goes, I don't know, I keep. But we used to, when Bella died, we used to call Pumpkin Bella too. So, all these pet names are in our back of our minds. But, oh my goodness. Anyway, I wanted to get you up to speed with the cat and why we don't have Pumpkin anymore, um, and why we have Helena now. But it kind of helps when you lose a pet. It kind of helps go get another one. A lot of people is like, well, we lost one. We don't want another one once you lose that. No, it helps. You know, it just does. So it helped that we had Pumpkin when Bella died. And well, before we had Bella, we had Lucina. We had another dog too. And before, yeah, we had Bella. We had Lucina, and we had her for 17 years. And so Lucina and Bella were Maltese, little Malteses, so little lap dogs. Those are my favorite kind of dogs, are the lap dogs. But with my husband being 73 years old, he's decided that having a dog is too much on him. So we decided that maybe a cat would be better because they're easier to take care of. Because all you have to do is have a litter box. You don't have to take a dog out in the middle of winter. I mean, you don't have to take a cat out like you do a dog. You understand. Anyway, so this thing is taking me longer than I thought it was going to. Um, but I think it's going to be great once it does. And I know I keep coming back and saying we're going to do something different, but we should be able to do 25 rows. And how you count these rows is, well, you see me count. You're going to count only the orange rows. So these little things that stick out right here, you're going to count these. That's how many rows. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. And 24 and 25 is 49. So we're going to go all the way to 49 rows, and then we'll be back, and I will tell you what to do next after that. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and bye bye now.